A former slot technician just revealed a betting strategy that casinos actively train their floor managers to watch for. This isn't about card counting or advantage play. This is about a specific bet size, 50 cents per spin, that former employees say disrupts the mathematical models casinos use to guarantee profits. According to multiple sources who've worked behind the scenes, this approach could turn $20 into hours of actual play and legitimate winning sessions. Here's what makes this particularly interesting. It works on virtually every slot machine on any casino floor. What you're about to learn is information that casino executives would prefer to stay buried in internal training documents and employee handbooks that never leave company property. Meet Sarah. She spent 15 years playing blackjack in Atlantic City before switching to slots about 3 years ago. She thought the transition would be straightforward. Walk up to a machine, insert money, press a button. Simple entertainment. But Sarah noticed something unusual during her first few months of slot play. She was betting 50 cents per spin on dollar-denomination machines, while the woman next to her was betting $2.50 per spin on penny slots. The penny slot player went through $300 in under 2 hours. Sarah played for nearly 5 hours on $120. She actually left with $85 still in her pocket. She assumed she'd just gotten lucky that particular evening, but the pattern repeated itself. Week after week, Sarah would show up with her modest bankroll, bet her 50 cents per spin, and outlast players betting 5 to 10 times more per spin on machines that looked busier and more exciting. During one visit, her casino host pulled her aside for what seemed like a routine check-in. The conversation turned to her betting patterns. The host reviewed her player card data and made an offhand comment that stuck with Sarah. "You're betting smarter, not harder." Sarah asked what that meant. The host smiled, changed the subject, and moved on to another player. That comment became the beginning of Sarah's investigation into why her 50-cent bets seemed to perform differently than what basic logic suggested they should. The mathematics casinos don't typically tell a story most players never discover. Return to player percentages, what industry insiders call RTP, vary dramatically based on denomination. According to internal data referenced by former slot directors, penny slots typically operate between 86 and 88% RTP. Quarter slots jump to 90 to 92%. Dollar denomination machines reach 92 to 94%. This creates a counterintuitive reality that Sarah stumbled into accidentally. A lower total bet on a higher denomination machine actually provides better mathematical odds than a higher total bet on a lower denomination machine. The casino makes more money from the player betting $2.50 on penny slots than from the player betting 50 cents on quarter or dollar slots, even though the penny slot player feels like they're being more cautious by choosing penny denomination. This is where the 50-cent sweet spot becomes relevant. Former employees report this specific betting range falls into an unusual category within casino profit modeling. On quarter machines, 50 cents equals 2 credits. That's enough to access the better RTP tier programmed into higher denomination games. On dollar machines, 50 cents represents half a credit with maximum line activation on certain game configurations. Some machines allow exactly this type of bet structure. The result creates an optimal balance that former slot directors say casino executives noticed in their quarterly reports: better return to player percentage, manageable bankroll requirements for recreational players, an extended playtime that should theoretically benefit the casino, but somehow doesn't translate into expected profits. But here's what makes this even more powerful when you combine it with what happened next in Sarah's discovery process. She didn't just stumble onto this 50-cent approach. She documented it. She tracked every session for 18 months. She recorded which machines, which denominations, which betting structures, and which outcomes. What she discovered would eventually catch the attention of a mathematics professor who'd spent 6 months conducting his own independent analysis. Wait until you hear what his research revealed about why this specific bet amount creates problems for casino profit models that were designed around completely different player behavior patterns. The programming reality behind slot machines reveals layers most players never consider. Former slot technicians report that every machine operates with what's called a PAR sheet, a probability accounting report. These documents, which casinos guard more carefully than their quarterly earnings statements, contain the mathematical DNA of every slot machine on the floor. According to former gaming compliance officers who've reviewed thousands of these reports, machines aren't programmed with a single return to player percentage. They're programmed with different PAR sheets for each denomination. Higher denominations receive higher RTP configurations because casino executives expect players betting at those levels to wager significantly more per spin. The mathematical model assumes a dollar slot player will bet $3 to $5 per spin. When someone bets 50 cents on that same machine, they're accessing the superior RTP without meeting the expected bet threshold that justifies that RTP from the casino's profit perspective. This is where the 50-cent exploit actually functions. You're not beating the machine or breaking any rules. You're simply accessing a higher denomination RTP structure without placing the typical high bet that casinos built their profit models around. Consider what happened to Michael, the mathematics professor Sarah eventually connected with through a gambling forum. Michael didn't approach slots as entertainment. He approached them as a mathematical problem worth solving. Over 6 months, he tracked more than 1,000 individual sessions. Every session involved 50-cent bets on quarter denomination machines using 2-credit play. He documented every spin, every bonus trigger, every win, every loss. His data showed something remarkable. His playing sessions lasted 23% longer than what the stated RTP alone would predict. The machines were performing exactly as programmed, but the combination of better denomination RTP and lower total bet created extended playtime that casino models don't account for when they project profits from slot operations. Here's the heartbreaking part of Michael's story. After 14 months of regular play using this exact approach, the casino changed his machine access. He arrived one evening to find his player card wouldn't activate his preferred bank of quarter denomination games. A floor manager explained that certain machines were being reserved for higher-tier players. Michael's betting average had flagged him as a low-value customer despite logging more hours than almost anyone else in the casino that year. According to former slot directors, this type of restriction happens more often than players realize. Casinos actively manage which players can access which machines, and betting patterns that produce extended playtime without corresponding revenue get noticed. Michael hadn't done anything wrong. He'd simply found a mathematical approach that worked too well for too long. But why does this specific amount, 50 cents, create this effect? Former slot directors reveal that the 50-cent to $1 range falls below what's called player tracking priority thresholds in most casino management systems. Casino hosts focus their attention on players betting $2 or more per spin because those betting levels generate the revenue that justifies complimentary rooms, meals, and show tickets. When you're betting 50 cents per spin, you essentially stay under the radar. You're getting better mathematical odds through higher denomination access, but you're not triggering the host attention that comes with higher betting levels. You're in a sweet spot where the mathematics favor longer play, but casino marketing systems largely ignore your existence. One former casino host described players in this category as invisible profitables. They're profitable to themselves through extended entertainment value, but they're invisible to the casino systems designed to identify and reward high-value customers. The multi-line trap represents another critical element most players misunderstand completely. Penny slots encourage 40 to 50 line activation. The machines display max lines messaging across their screens. Buttons flash with encouragement to activate every possible pay line. This creates an illusion of more frequent winning because you're hitting winning combinations on multiple lines simultaneously. But those wins are small, very small. You might win on 7 lines in a single spin and collect less than your total bet. Former gaming mathematics experts explain that this design serves a specific psychological purpose. Frequent small wins feel like winning even when you're losing. It keeps players engaged in betting. The 50-cent counter strategy rejects this entire approach. On quarter machines, betting 2 credits on fewer lines, 5 to 10 lines maximum, concentrates your bet for larger individual line wins. Gaming mathematics research indicates that concentrated bets on fewer lines create higher volatility but better hit value ratios. You win less frequently, but when you win, the amounts are meaningful relative to your bet size. Linda discovered this accidentally during a trip to Atlantic City. She had a limited budget and wanted to make her entertainment last. She found a quarter denomination machine and bet 2 credits on just 5 lines. Her total bet, 50 cents per spin. About 40 minutes into her session, she triggered a line bonus feature. The bonus multiplier hit 680 times her line bet. She won $340 on a 50-cent spin. The woman playing next to her had triggered a similar bonus on a penny slot with 50 lines activated. That player won $68. Same bonus feature, same general machine type, dramatically different outcome. Linda thought she'd gotten extraordinarily lucky. Former employees say she'd actually stumbled into better mathematics. The concentrated bet on the quarter denomination created a win that was proportionally larger than what dispersed bets across many lines on penny denomination could produce. She didn't know she was exploiting denomination mathematics. She just knew her small budget had produced an outcome that felt impossible based on her 50-cent bet size. The psychological advantage extends beyond just the mathematics. Lower bets create less emotional investment per spin. When you're betting 50 cents instead of $5, each individual spin carries less psychological weight. You're calmer. You make better decisions about when to walk away. You're not chasing losses because each loss is manageable. Better denomination access means more significant wins feel more achievable because the pay tables are structured for higher credit values. Extended playtime translates directly into more opportunities to trigger bonus features, and bonus features represent the only realistic path to winning sessions on slot machines. Former gaming psychology researchers note that bet size correlates directly with stress response. Higher bets trigger higher cortisol levels. Higher stress leads to poor decision-making. 50-cent bets keep you in a calmer state where rational thinking remains possible. But here's where this strategy becomes really powerful. When you combine it with machine selection. Not all slots are created equal, and former employees say there are 3 specific types of machines where this 50-cent approach is absolutely devastating to casino profit margins. Classic mechanical-style slots represent the first machine category where 50-cent betting creates unusual mathematical advantages. According to former slot floor managers, these games, even their digital versions that simulate mechanical reels, typically operate with higher base return to player percentages than their video counterparts. Industry reports suggest 92 to 94% RTP on quarter denomination for these classic formats. The simple bonus structures mean consistent small to medium wins rather than the volatile feast or famine patterns of modern video slots. Former technicians reveal something fascinating about these machines. They were originally designed and mathematically optimized for 1 to 2 credit play. The entire pay table structure, the hit frequency, the bonus trigger rates, all of it was built around players betting exactly the amount that 50 cents represents on quarter denomination. Triple diamond, double diamond, and red, white, and blue variants dominate this category. These games look almost identical to the mechanical slots your grandparents played in 1970s Las Vegas. 3 reels, simple symbols, straightforward pay tables. No elaborate bonus features, no multi-level progressives, no animated characters dancing across screens. Just pure mathematics operating exactly as programmed. When you bet 2 credits on quarter denomination, you're 50 cents. You're playing these machines precisely as their designers intended. Frank discovered this during his retirement years in Las Vegas. He was a former accountant who approached casino gambling with spreadsheet discipline. He set strict $100 session budgets and refused to deviate regardless of outcomes. He found a bank of triple diamond machines near the back of a locals casino and played exclusively at 50 cents per spin. Frank documented his sessions obsessively. Every visit, every spin, every outcome went into his tracking system. His data revealed patterns that seemed almost impossible. 4-hour average sessions on $100 budgets. That's 800 spins. The mathematics suggested he should have exhausted his bankroll much faster, even with the superior RTP of quarter denomination. But Frank's records showed something else. He was hitting 2 to 3 small jackpots per month during his weekly visits. Jackpots ranging from $100 to $300. Nothing life-changing, but enough to sustain his play and occasionally provide modest profits. His casino host eventually pulled him aside during one visit. The conversation was brief but telling. The host mentioned that Frank had the most boring but consistent play pattern the casino had ever tracked. Same machine type, same bet, same duration, same frequency, week after week after week. The casino couldn't offer him upgraded comps because his betting level didn't qualify, but they also couldn't understand why he never seemed to have the dramatic losing sessions that mathematical models predicted. Low volatility video slots represent the second machine category where this approach creates sustainable advantage. According to gaming industry analysts, identification is straightforward. Look for games advertising frequent, small bonuses rather than rare, massive jackpots. Buffalo, Standard Edition, Wheel of Fortune, and Cleopatra fall into this category. Games promoting 243 ways to win or 720 ways to win typically signal lower volatility. These games were designed for players betting $1 to $3 per spin. Former employees note that the bonus trigger frequencies were programmed with those bet levels in mind. At 50 cents per spin, you're getting identical bonus frequencies with 1/3 to 1/6 the financial investment. Mathematics becomes compelling quickly. Amy discovered this machine category out of necessity rather than strategy. She was a single mother with a $50 monthly entertainment budget. Most forms of entertainment in her city cost at least that much for a few hours. She decided to try the local casino. She found quarter-denomination Cleopatra and committed to strict 50-cent bets using 2 credits with limited line activation. Her first session produced 3 free spin bonuses in 90 minutes on her $50 budget. She didn't win significant money that night, but she got 90 minutes of entertainment for $50. Her second visit produced similar results. By her fourth visit, something unexpected happened. One of her free spin bonuses triggered a retrigger, then another retrigger. She walked out with $180 pre-fidos after 4 hours of play on a $50 investment. The casino started sending her promotional offers for higher limit rooms. She never increased her bet, not once. Former casino marketing managers say this pattern, sustained play at low bets triggering host attention, represents a category error in player tracking systems. The systems identify frequency and duration, but sometimes fail to weight actual betting levels appropriately. Progressive base games represent the third and perhaps most interesting machine category. Most progressive jackpots remain accessible at minimum denomination levels. Industry insider reports indicate that progressive contribution percentages stay constant regardless of bet size on many machines. You're funding the progressive meter at 1/5 the rate of typical players while maintaining eligibility for identical jackpots. Your odds per dollar spent actually exceed those of players betting $2.50 on penny slots connected to the same progressive system. Former slot directors acknowledge this creates mathematical inefficiencies in wide-area progressive networks. Megabuck-style games often have flat qualification requirements. 50 cents on quarter denomination qualifies you completely. Dennis hit a $4,800 progressive betting exactly 50 cents per spin. The woman seated next to him was betting $3 per spin on the same progressive bank. According to the slot attendant who processed both their taxable wins that night, Dennis had been playing 1/6 the time with 1/6 the total bet of his neighbor. Both were eligible for the same jackpot. Both had equal odds per spin of triggering it. But Dennis's odds per dollar spent were dramatically superior because of his denomination choice and bet structure. The slot attendant mentioned she'd seen this pattern before with other players. Low bets on higher denominations occasionally producing significant progressive wins that seemed disproportionate to the investment level. Casino executives, she said, were aware of this mathematical quirk, but couldn't fix it without restructuring entire progressive networks across multiple properties. But knowing which machines to play only provides half the strategic framework. There's a timing element that former employees say casinos actively try to obscure through floor design and psychological manipulation. Session length matters more than most players understand, and former pit bosses reveal why casinos actually prefer extended single sessions over multiple shorter visits. According to gaming psychology experts who've studied player behavior patterns across all thousands of hours of casino floor footage, casino profit margins increase dramatically when players remain at machines for 4 or more consecutive hours. Player fatigue degrades decision-making capacity. Tired players make impulsive choices. They increase bets after losses trying to recover quickly. They chase bonuses that just triggered, convinced another big win sits 2 or 3 spins away. They ignore bathroom breaks, meal times, and rational exit points. Former pit bosses are remarkably candid about this pattern when speaking off the record. One former floor manager from a major Las Vegas property described the ideal customer profile: someone who sits down at 3 in the afternoon and doesn't stand up until 9 at night, progressively increasing their bet size as fatigue and frustration compound. The 50-cent session strategy deliberately disrupts this profit model through structured time management. Break your bankroll into 30-minute session blocks regardless of total budget size. $25 per session at 50 cents per spin provides 50 spins. Not enough to trigger significant bonus features necessarily, but enough to get a mathematical sample of the machine's behavior. Take mandatory 15-minute breaks between every session. Walk away from the slot floor entirely during these breaks. Visit the bathroom, get coffee, step outside for fresh air. Check your phone messages. Anything that removes you from the sensory environment casinos engineer specifically to keep you seated and betting. According to former casino hosts who've analyzed player tracking data, this particular pattern disrupts what's called the psychological conditioning model. Casinos design everything from air temperature to carpet patterns to encourage prolonged stationary play. Breaking sessions into 30-minute blocks with complete environmental disengagement between sessions prevents the psychological fatigue that leads to poor decisions. Robert implemented this exact structure during his 2-year experiment with slot play. He was a regular Las Vegas visitor with disposable income and genuine curiosity about whether disciplined approaches could produce different outcomes than typical recreational gambling. His self-imposed rules were rigid: 50-cent bets on quarter denomination only, 30-minute sessions with mandatory 15-minute breaks, complete session documentation including time, location, machine type, and outcomes. He visited Las Vegas between 4 and 6 times annually. Over 2 years, that totaled more than 40 individual trips. His player tracking card eventually revealed patterns that casino hosts found genuinely confusing. Former employees who later reviewed his data noted that Robert showed winning sessions 34% of the time. Industry statistics suggest only 10 to 15% of slot players experience winning sessions overall. Robert's rate more than doubled typical outcomes. The key to his success wasn't luck or machine selection or even the 50-cent betting structure alone. The critical factor was his willingness to walk away from machines while ahead in micro sessions. He'd trigger a small bonus, win $60 or $80 on his $25 session budget, and immediately cash out. He'd take his 15-minute break, then move to a different machine in a different area of the casino. His play pattern combined smaller sessions across different machines rather than marathon sessions on single games. Casino hosts couldn't develop a clear profile. One reportedly told Robert he played like someone who didn't want to win big. Robert's response, which he shared later in an online gambling forum, was simple. He played like someone who wanted to leave with more money than he arrived with, and he recognized that goal required different behavior than what casinos encouraged. The bankroll mathematics supporting this approach reveal why $100 to $150 represents optimal range for this strategy. Former slot directors note that this amount falls below premium player tracking thresholds at most properties. You're not triggering the attention that comes with $1,000 buy-ins or $500 average sessions. Simultaneously, at 50 cents per spin, $150 provides 200 to 300 spins. Gaming mathematics research demonstrates that 200-plus spins gives you 85 to 90% probability of triggering at least one bonus round on low-volatility machines. You're giving yourself a legitimate mathematical opportunity for profitable sessions without the bankroll exposure that creates devastating loss potential. According to responsible gaming experts who work with former problem gamblers, budget structure matters as much as total amount. Never bring more than you'd spend on equivalent entertainment. $150 equals dinner and show tickets for two people in most cities. Structure that amount as five $30 sessions or three $50 sessions. The difference between this approach and typical slot play isn't the total amount wagered. It's the distribution across time and the mandatory interruption points that prevent the psychological spiral most players experience. Jennifer tracked this exact approach over 18 months. Monthly casino visits, strict $120 budgets, four 30-minute sessions at 50 cents per spin, quarter denomination machines exclusively. Her documented results: came home with money 7 times, broke even 4 times, lost full amount 7 times. Industry analysts examining her data noted that her winning ratio dramatically exceeded typical slot statistics. Her secret wasn't complicated. She never increased bet size during any session, regardless of outcomes. Not after wins, not after losses, not after bonus triggers, not after long dry spells. That discipline, former casino hosts acknowledged, separated her results from 95% of recreational players. The walkaway trigger represents perhaps the most critical discipline component in this entire framework. Former gaming addiction counselors reveal that most significant losses occur immediately after initial wins. Players hit a bonus, win $80 or $100, and convince themselves the machine has turned hot. They increase their bet size, convinced bigger wins sit just ahead. This is precisely when mathematics turns brutally against players. If you double your session bankroll, $25 becomes $50. Walk away from that specific machine immediately. Cash out, take your mandatory break, or move to a completely different machine in a different location. According to former slot attendants who process thousands of cash outs daily, certain players never stayed at machines after significant wins. Those players, without exception, were the ones who regularly left the casino with money. Marcus called his approach bonus hopping. Hit a good bonus at 50 cents, cash out immediately, move to another machine. Casino hosts reportedly hated players like Marcus because their tracking data showed winning sessions without corresponding extended play at any single machine. Now, the psychological element that former casino floor managers identify as the real secret separating sustainable players from those who inevitably lose everything becomes the foundation for understanding why this 50-cent strategy actually works long-term. The fundamental reframe required for this approach to function starts with viewing slots as paid entertainment rather than income opportunity. Gaming psychology researchers who've studied player behavior patterns across decades note that players who mentally categorize slot play as entertainment spending rather than investment spending demonstrate measurably better outcomes. Former problem gambling counselors who work directly inside casinos, providing intervention services, report that the difference between recreational and problem gamblers isn't available income or frequency of play. The difference is mindset. Recreational players decide how much they're willing to pay for entertainment before arriving. Problem gamblers arrive hoping to leave with more than they brought. That fundamental psychological distinction predicts outcomes more accurately than any other single factor, including total bankroll size or game selection. The 50-cent psychology forces an entertainment perspective almost automatically. You cannot realistically expect life-changing money betting 50 cents per spin. That limitation becomes the strategic advantage. You're not playing to get rich. You're not playing to solve financial problems. You're not playing because you believe this session will be different from probability. You're playing because you've allocated a specific entertainment budget and you're choosing to spend it on slot machines rather than movies, concerts, or restaurant meals. Former casino hosts note that low-denomination consistent players had the lowest addiction referral rates among all customer categories. Players betting 50 cents to $1 per spin rarely exhibited the behavioral warning signs that triggered intervention protocols. They played for defined periods, left when budgets were exhausted, and returned weeks or months later rather than days later. The expectation adjustment matters more than the mathematics. At 50 cents per spin, your realistic goal isn't a car payment or mortgage relief. Your goal is extending entertainment value while occasionally leaving slightly ahead. Industry analysts suggest this bet size mathematically aligns with realistic slot outcomes in ways that higher denominations cannot. You're playing long enough to trigger bonuses, experiencing the full entertainment value the games offer, while limiting downside exposure to levels that won't create financial stress regardless of outcomes. Patricia's transformation story illustrates this principle clearly. She lost $3,000 in 6 months betting $2.50 to $5 per spin on penny slots. She was chasing the massive line hits she'd seen other players experience. She was convinced the next big bonus sat just a few spins away every single session. She increased bets after losses trying to recover faster. She skipped meals to continue playing. She borrowed money twice from family members to fund additional sessions after particularly bad runs. A slot technician friend eventually explained denomination mathematics to Patricia after watching her lose $400 in 90 minutes one evening. Patricia switched completely. Quarter denomination, strict 50-cent bets, no exceptions regardless of circumstances. She maintained her $500 monthly budget but approached it entirely differently. Over the next year, she lost money overall, but she lost only $800 total compared to a $6,000 projection if she'd maintained her previous pattern. More importantly, as she explained in a gambling recovery forum months later, she started enjoying casino visits again. The experience stopped being about chasing. It became entertainment with occasional bonuses rather than financial strategy with occasional entertainment. A former casino manager who tracked her player card data noted that the property actually preferred her new pattern. She stayed longer, appeared to enjoy herself based on behavioral observations, and returned regularly. But she wasn't profitable for the casino anymore like she'd been before. Her lifetime value as a customer had dropped 70% despite more frequent visits. The slot floor social pressure represents another psychological challenge this 50-cent approach addresses directly. According to casino design experts who've consulted on floor layouts for major properties, machines are positioned specifically to showcase big winners. Sounds trigger throughout the floor when jackpots hit. Lights flash. Celebrations erupt. These displays create fear of missing out among nearby players. Former slot floor managers admit that high-limit machines near entrances serve deliberate purposes. They signal possibility. They suggest that big wins happen regularly. They encourage players to bet more than originally planned because surely this could be their lucky day. When you're betting 50 cents per spin, you're psychologically separated from high roller culture completely. You're not competing with players betting $10 or $25 per spin. You're not trying to match their action or replicate their wins. Former casino hosts report that low-bet players maintain the most realistic expectations about outcomes. They understood they were paying for entertainment. They hoped for modest wins but didn't expect them. That psychological position prevented the disappointment and frustration that drives increased betting and poor decisions. Gaming psychology studies demonstrate that bet size correlates directly with emotional investment and stress response. Higher bets trigger elevated cortisol levels. Stress hormones impair decision-making capacity. Players betting larger amounts per spin demonstrate measurably worse decision patterns than players betting smaller amounts, independent of total bankroll size or gambling experience. A player with $10,000 betting 100 per spin will make worse decisions than a player with $500 betting 50 cents per spin because the per-spin financial exposure creates different neurological responses. You're literally making better decisions at 50 cents per spin because you're calmer. Your brain isn't flooded with stress hormones that impair rational thinking. James experienced this contrast directly during a Las Vegas trip. He sat next to a player betting $25 per spin on a dollar denomination machine. The high roller lost $3,000 in 45 minutes. James played for 4 hours on $100 with $60 remaining. Identical machine bank, identical time period, completely different emotional experiences. The high roller left angry and visibly distressed. James left smiling despite technically losing money. Former pit bosses note this pattern repeatedly. 50-cent players appeared more satisfied with their experiences than players betting 10 times that amount, regardless of actual win-loss outcomes. Loss limits integrated into this framework remain non-negotiable for sustainability. According to responsible gaming advocates, Any slot strategy without hard loss limits represents merely slower losing rather than a legitimate approach. The 50-cent method only functions with absolute discipline. Set session limits between $25 and $50 maximum. Set time limits at 30 minutes maximum per session. Former casino surveillance workers who monitored thousands of hours of player behavior report, they could identify recreational versus problem gamblers purely through betting patterns in time management observation. Recreational players had defined stopping points. Problem gamblers had no visible exit strategy. Catherine used her phone timer without exception. Every session, 30 minutes, alarm triggers, immediate cash out, regardless of winning or losing. She tracked results over one full year. $1,500 total gambling budget distributed across monthly visits. She left casinos with money 12 times out of 36 visits. Industry statistics suggest only 10 to 15% of slot players experience winning days. She won a third of the time. The difference was absolute discipline with that 50-cent bet in 30-minute limit. No exceptions, no rationalizations, no just one more spin thinking. Former casino host noted her pattern was almost robotic in consistency. That mechanical approach, they acknowledged, was precisely why her results defied typical player outcomes. So now the mathematics, machine selection, session strategy, and psychological framework combine into a complete system that brings every element together into practical implementation with honest assessment of what this approach actually accomplishes in real-world conditions. The complete framework brings every element into a single coherent system that transforms random slot play into a structured entertainment approach. First, denomination selection. Quarter machines represent the minimum acceptable tier, dollar denomination preferred when available at 50 cents per half credit configuration. Second, bet size discipline. Strict 50-cent maximum per spin with zero exceptions, regardless of circumstances, winning streaks, losing streaks, bonus triggers, or perceived machine temperature. Third, machine type restriction. Classic mechanical style games, low volatility video slots, or progressive base games exclusively. Fourth, session architecture. 30-minute maximum duration with $25 to $50 bankroll per individual session. Fifth, mandatory break protocol. 15 minutes minimum between every session with complete removal from casino floor environment. Sixth, profit protection trigger. Double your session bankroll and immediately cash out from that specific machine. Seventh, psychological framework. Entertainment expense mentality rather than income opportunity perspective. Eighth, absolute limit enforcement. Daily and monthly budgets established before entering casino property with zero flexibility regardless of outcomes. Former slot directors explain why this systematic approach exploits gaps between denomination return to player programming and typical player behavior patterns. You're accessing 92 to 94% RTP through quarter or dollar denomination play. Most recreational players receive 86 to 88% RTP through penny slots with maximum line activation and dispersed betting patterns. That 6 to 8 percentage point difference becomes enormous when compounded across hundreds or thousands of spins over months and years. Gaming mathematics experts emphasize that you're still playing negative expectation games where house edge guarantees casino profit over sufficient sample size. But you're minimizing edge exposure while maximizing entertainment duration per dollar wagered. Former casino managers privately acknowledge that players using this exact framework break even or experience small losses over extended periods, which represents essentially winning at slots when compared to typical player outcomes and casino profit expectations. Margaret implemented every single element of this system for 3 consecutive years without deviation. Monthly casino visits, $200 strict budget, 50-cent bets exclusively on quarter denomination machines, 30-minute session blocks with mandatory breaks, pure entertainment mindset without financial expectations. She documented everything obsessively. 36 monthly visits over 3 years, total amount spent, $7,200 across complete tracking period. Total documented losses, $1,100 after accounting for winning sessions. She came home ahead 14 separate times, or CAM, broke exactly even 8 times, lost her full budget 14 times. Industry statistics suggest she should have lost $3,600 to $4,300 based on average RTP and typical player behavior patterns. She saved between $2,500 and $3,200 by using this precise approach compared to what mathematical models predict for standard slot play at equivalent total wagering levels. But honest assessment requires acknowledging what this strategy cannot accomplish. Former gaming regulators emphasize repeatedly that all slot machines operate as negative expectation games by mathematical design and regulatory requirement. You cannot beat slots through any system, strategy, or approach. The fundamental mathematics guarantee casino profit over sufficient sample size. This 50-cent framework doesn't change underlying probability or eliminate house edge. According to gaming and mathematics experts, what this approach actually accomplishes is minimizing house edge exposure, extending entertainment value per dollar spent, reducing catastrophic loss potential, and creating a sustainable recreational gambling framework that prevents the financial devastation typical slot play produces. Former problem gambling counselors describe this as harm reduction rather than advantage play. You're not beating the casino, you're losing slower while experiencing more entertainment per dollar invested. The comparison framework clarifies realistic expectations. A traditional slot player brings $100 budget, bets $250 per spin on penny slots, and faces 86% RTP. Mathematical expectation: 40 spins, 30 to 45 minutes total playtime, $14 expected loss. 50-cent strategy player brings identical $100 budget, bets 50 cents per spin on quarter slots, accesses 92% RTP. Mathematical expectation: 200 spins, 2 to 3 hours play duration, $8 expected loss. Same starting bankroll, dramatically more entertainment time, substantially less expected loss, plus denomination benefits that create larger proportional wins when bonuses trigger. Former casino executives acknowledge off-record that players using this approach represent bad customers from pure profit perspective. They play longer, lose less, and understand underlying mathematics better than 90% of slot floor traffic. But they're also sustainable customers who return regularly rather than burning out after devastating losses that prevent future visits. What success actually looks like has nothing to do with getting rich or beating casinos or achieving consistent profit. Success means sustainable entertainment budget, occasional winning sessions, mostly breaking even or experiencing small manageable losses. That represents genuine success with slot machines, according to gaming industry analysts and responsible gambling advocates. Try this approach on your next casino visit. Track results honestly without self-deception or selective memory. Compare outcomes to previous experiences using different betting patterns and denominations. Former slot players who implemented this system report the difference was night and day, not in winnings necessarily, but in overall experience quality and budget sustainability. Casinos don't fear this strategy because it beats them mathematically. They fear it because it transforms unprofitable entertainment into sustainable recreation that reduces profit margins over long term. Former employees say that's exactly why you'll never see this approach advertised on casino floors or mentioned in Players Club promotional materials. If you found this information valuable, subscribe to this channel for more mathematical analysis of casino games. Comment below about your typical bet size and whether you plan to try this 50-cent approach on your next visit. This video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Gambling involves risk of loss. Never gamble with money you cannot afford to lose. If gambling becomes problematic, seek help immediately through resources like the National Council on Problem Gambling.